Hi everyone, how you doing? Hope everything is just okay. Welcome to the second session of High 1. Today we'll be covering pages 4 and 5. Okay? Well, on page 4, there is a reading passage entitled How do you know when someone is lying? Remember last session we studied some vocabulary items uh, about telling the truth, lying. We discussed some questions. So the question is, how do you know when someone is lying? Uh, as I mentioned earlier, some people blush, some people just can't make eye contact. They avoid making eye contact. Uh, Sometimes we breathe fast. Okay, so throughout history, people have tried different methods to distinguish whether someone is telling a lie or telling the truth. Okay, so paragraph 1. The Chinese used rice. Well, the Chinese means the people of China. China, Chinese, the Chinese. Remember, we use the article the, plus some nationality adjectives that end in ch or sh or se, like Chinese, to refer to the people. For example, France, French. The French means people of France. Britain, British. The British means people of Britain, or the English, the Spanish, the Dutch, the Japanese. So, ancient Chinese, the Chinese used rice to know when someone is lying. An examination for truthfulness might go something like this. Is your name Chang? So, an examination for truthfulness, to discover, to find out whether someone is telling the truth, they did this. They asked the suspect a question, something like, is your name Chang? They did it to find out the truth. They know the guy's name is, in fact, Chang, and they knew that the person's name is Chang. Okay? Yes, the interrogators hand Mr. Chang some rice. Well, interrogator comes from the verb to interrogate. It means to ask someone a lot of questions. So, an interrogator means a person who interrogates someone else, someone who asks others questions. So, the interrogator hand gives Mr. Chang some rice. They have already counted the number of rice grains, so they know how many rice grains are there are. Okay, put this handful of rice in your mouth. Handful means amount of something that you can hold in your hand. So they gave the suspect, some rice, a handful of rice. They knew how many grains of rice there were, and they asked the person to put the rice in his or her mouth. Hold it for 3 seconds. So hold the rice in your mouth for 3 seconds. Spit it out. You know, when there is something in your mouth and you just spit it out, you just let it go. Yeah, you spit it out. So they ask the person to spit the rice out. Then they count how many rice grains come out. So uh, they gave some rice. The person just holds the rice for a couple of seconds, then just spit it out. Then the interrogators count the number of rice grains. Did you steal the chicken? So the interrogators ask their second question. Did you steal the chicken? No, says the suspect. Okay, put this handful of rice in your mouth. So they give a second handful of rice to the suspect. Hold it for 3 seconds. Okay, hold the rice in your mouth for 3 seconds. Spit it out. Just spit out the rice in your mouth. Again, they knew how many grains went in. So how many grains here means how many grains of rice went into the suspect's mouth. And they count how many grains come out. So they counted the number of rice grains. If more grains come out after the question about the stolen chicken, that came out after the easy question where the suspect truthfully gave his name, they knew he's lying. So first they asked an easy question, and of course the answer was crystal clear. The suspect had some grains of rice. He kept the grains of rice in his mouth, then spit it out. They counted the numbers. Then they asked a difficult question, again with the grains of rice in the suspect's mouth. So, how did they know when the suspect is lying? So, the answer is here. Okay, so how? The stress of being caught lying makes the suspect's mouth drier. Okay, by the way, everyone, just pay attention to this word. You know, as a noun, it is suspect, suspect. As a verb, it is pronounced suspect. So, suspect is a person we think is guilty of a crime. Okay? So, the stress of being caught. Remember, according to the ancient Chinese, when someone is lying, they feel stressed, and this stress makes the mouth drier. Okay? So, the stress of being caught lying makes the suspect's mouth drier, opposite of wet. Fewer grains stick. So, remember, when the mouth is drier, fewer grains stick. It means more grains of rice just come out. So, more come out, more grains of rice come out. Mr. Chang stole the ketchup. So, this is how they knew when someone is lying. They used grains of rice. They asked an easy question accompanied with a difficult one, and they believe that the stress makes the mouth drier. So more grains of rice come out, and they knew whether the person committed a crime or not. Okay, number two. Remember, we read about lie detectors. We studied the word or polygraph. So you can see it in the picture. So a polygraph or a lie detector. As you can see in the picture, the guy is taking a lie detector test. Okay, so let's move on. Modern lie detectors, also known as polygraphs, rely on the same basic principle. So, what is a lie detector? It is also known as, it is called a polygraph. So, polygraphs or lie detectors rely on the same basic principle, rely on, they work on, they function on, they just depend on the same basic principle, rule. So what is the basic principle here? This is the principle that lying causes changes which can be detected and measured. So when we lie, it causes some changes and we can detect, we can notice, we can discover, and we can measure these changes. Having agreed to do the test, do the test means the lie detector test, okay, or the polygraph test. So, having agreed to do the test, to take the test, if the test is done under duress, the extra stress caused makes the test unreliable. So, if the test is done under duress, okay, duress means stress, anxiety, feeling anxious. So, if there is too much stress, this too much stress makes the test unreliable, opposite of reliable. Well, the suspect, excuse me, the suspect is connected to three devices. So the person who we think is guilty of the crime is connected, attached to three devices, three gadgets. Measuring blood pressure, breathing rate, and electrodermal response. The increased amount of electricity which flows to the skin when we sweat. Okay, so the suspect is connected to three devices, and these devices measure what? They measure blood pressure, okay? They measure breathing rate. Everyone, we have the word breath without an E at the end, which is a noun, and breathe with an E at the end, which is a verb. So breathing rate, and electrodermal response. What is electrodermal response? It is the increased amount of electricity which flows to the skin when we sweat, when we perspire. So, electrodermal response means the electricity in our skin. When you just work out, when you play sports, or when you just stand in the sun for a long time, we start sweating, we start perspiring. Well, increased activity in these areas suggests increased stress. Okay? Well, suggest, everyone, here means to show. So, increased activities in these areas in your blood pressure. So, when you have a high blood pressure, when you have high breathing rate and high electrodermal response, they show, they suggest increased stress, high level of stress, which means the subject might be lying. So increased activities in these areas show that the subject might be lying. By the way, this word subject as a noun is pronounced subject, means a person, and as a verb it is pronounced subject. Subject. So subject means to expose or to make someone experience something. So watch out, please. Don't confuse them. Subject, subject, suspect, suspect. All right. Lie detectors have been widely used in the US since the 1950s. So lie detectors, polygraphs, have been widely used in the US since the 1950s. The 1950s, everyone, means the decade, 10 years, the period of time from 1950 up to 1959. So the Americans have been using lie detectors, polygraphs since 50s. Okay, the 1950s. But they remain controversial, and their results are not always accepted by courts. All right. Well, but they remain controversial. They here refers to polygraphs. Controversial means arguable, arguable, and their results, the results of tests done on polygraphs, are not always accepted by court. So not so reliable, not so reliable. The the results of a test taken by the British nanny Louise Woodward to support her plea of not guilty to killing a child in her care were not admitted as evidence at her trial in Massachusetts. So, there was this woman, Louise Woodward. She was a British nanny. So she was from Britain, and she was a nanny. You know, nanny means someone who takes care of a child. This nanny was guilty of killing or murdering a child in her care. She was just responsible for. Louise took a polygraph test, and the results of this test, yeah, the results were not admitted as evidence. The results were just rejected by the court at her trial. Whose trial? Louise's trial in Massachusetts. And by the way, Massachusetts is a state in the U.S. So you see, polygraphs are not so reliable, especially by courts. They don't accept the results at times. Nowadays, polygraphs are used by the U.S. police. So who uses the polygraphs? The U.S. police use them. The CIA, again, the CIA uses polygraphs, and the FBI to screen job applicants, to screen, to examine, to check, to inspect job applicants. Okay, they use it. But private employers are not allowed to subject job candidates to polygraph examinations. So in the U.S., according to the law, the police, the CIA, and the FBI are allowed to use polygraphs. But Private employers are not allowed, they can't uh, subject. Well, subject is a verb here, everyone. It means to expose, to make someone experience, to subject job applicants, job candidates. So a job candidate means someone who is looking for a job seeker, let's say. So they can't subject the job seekers to polygraph examinations except in except in a few high security industries like pharmaceuticals and money manufacturing. All right, there's some exceptions here. So they can subject the candidates, but there's some exceptions. They can use it in high security industries. High security means very important industries like pharmaceuticals. Uh, Pharmaceuticals are industries that produce drugs and medicines, and money manufacturing, making money, industries related to making money. So, generally speaking, uh, private employers cannot subject job seekers to polygraph examinations. Number three, cheaper and faster than a polygraph, the voice analyzer or VSA is based on the premise that your voice changes when, sorry, that our voice changes when we are under stress, when we're lying, for example. Well, there is another gadget, another tool that is cheaper and faster than a polygraph, than a lie detector, and it is a VSA. VSA, everyone, stands for Voice Stress Analyzer. And this machine is based on the premise. Yeah? Premise means idea. Yeah? Idea. So, it is based on the premise that our voice changes, so some changes happen to our voice when we are under stress, when we are lying, for example. So when someone lies, some changes happen to their voice, and it is because of stress. And this gadget, the VSA, can detect, can find out these changes. The VSA detects the changes. So when we are lying, we are under stress, of course, and this machine, this gadget, can find out the changes and will work on a telephone. We can just install it on a telephone, tape recording, or from the next room via a wireless mic or box. So we can install it in other rooms via using a wireless microphone or box, mic or box. The analyzer, the VSA, monitors, uh, finds out, checks the subject's voice patterns, the speaker's voice patterns, and inflections. Well, everyone, inflection means the way the sound of your voice changes. The sound of your voice goes up and down when you speak. We call that inflection. And electronically evaluates their relative stress patterns to determine if they're lying or not. And this machine electronically evaluates, assesses, judges, okay, the relative stress pattern. So it just evaluates the stress pattern to determine to detect, to discover, to locate if they're lying or not, if the subjects are lying or not. Now, you can even buy a truth phone. So nowadays, thanks to technology, you can buy a truth phone. So when your other half rings to say they're working late at the office, so when your other half means your better half, your spouse, your wife or husband, your partner. So when your other half rings, calls, gives you a call to say that they are working late at the office. Sometimes you receive this phone call from your husband or wife uh, telling you that they are busy at the office, they need to work late. By using this machine, the VSA, you can immediately know if it's true or not. You can at once, you can right away know whether they are telling the truth or not. So it is a piece of cake to know whether someone is lying or not, thanks to the VSA. Okay. But yet, research indicates this technology is not very precise at picking up deceitfulness. Well, this is the dark side. So unfortunately, research shows that this technology, the VSA, is not very precise, is not accurate enough at understanding, at picking up deceitfulness, dishonesty. So again, it is not 100% reliable, I'm afraid. Number 4, the period of time between the last word of an investigator's question and the first word of the subject's response is known as response latency. So, what is response latency? Everyone, when an investigator asks you a question, investigator, someone who investigates, uh, the period of time between the last word of the investigator's question and your first word, we call this period of time response latency. Response latency. Research tells us, research shows that the average response latency for subjects who are telling the truth is zero point 0.5 seconds. So, according to the research, the average response latency is about half a second, 0.5 seconds. Of course, in case the subject is telling the truth, not telling lies. Whereas, although the average latency for liars is 1.5 seconds. So, the average latency or response latency for liars is more than a second. It's about 2 seconds, or to be exact, it is 1.5 seconds. This is because the subject, the person being questioned, is mentally considering whether to tell the truth, part of the truth, or a complete lie. So, the response latency for liars is more than 1 second. What is the reason? It is because the subjects, let's say the suspects, they are mentally considering, thinking about whether to tell the truth, part of the truth, or a complete lie. They are just uh, uh, deciding what to do, whether they need to be economical with the truth, they tell the whole truth, I don't know, they tell part of the truth, and while thinking, while considering, of course, they're losing some time and it takes longer for them to answer. That's why the response latency is longer for liars. Latency of 2 or 3 seconds should be regarded as highly suspicious. In other words, he who hesitates is probably lying. So, remember the average response latency is less than a second, half a second. But come on, when it takes more than 2 or 3 seconds for someone to answer a question, it sounds suspicious. You know, something fishy is going on. There is something wrong because the person is just considering something. They may be planning to tell a big lie. They're not telling the truth, and we need to be really careful. So, he who hesitates is probably lying. The person who just spends a lot of time thinking or mulling over their answer is probably lying. Well, number 5. According to researchers in the US, when someone lies, they get an instantaneous warming around the eyes, commonly known as blushing. So, uh, there have been some researchers in the US, and as the researchers show, when a person is lying, there is an instantaneous warming. You know, instantaneous means immediate, quick warming around eyes, and we call this warming around the eyes blushing. So blushing means the warming around the eyes. Uh, Dr. James Levine of the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. So, Dr. James Levine is a specialist of the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. So, Rochester is a city in Minnesota. So, Dr. Levine speculates that he considers that people who lie are afraid of getting caught. So, according to Dr. James, liars are afraid of getting caught. Uh, that fear, that fear triggers a primitive response to run away. So the fear of getting caught triggers, it sets off a primitive response, a simple response answer to run away, to escape. Blood goes to the eyes, so when someone lies and when they are afraid of getting caught, what happens? Blood goes to the eyes so that the liar can more efficiently map out an escape route, he says. So according to Dr. Levine, when someone lies and when they're afraid of getting caught, blood goes to the eye in order to help the liar to map out, to plan escape, an escape route. Yes? So it helps them to make an efficient plan. A high definition, you know, HD, yeah, we say HD TVs, high definition, an HD or a high definition, high sensing, highly sensitive camera can detect such flashes. So, an HD and a highly sensitive camera is able to detect, to notice, to discover such blushes, such warmings around the eyes. The new technology, this new technology, blushing, yeah, has proved more reliable than conventional lie detectors. So this is more reliable than conventional lie detectors, polygraphs, conventional, traditional, and could offer a new tool, a new device. So could offer a new tool, a new device for mass security screening. You know, mass security, mass means related to a large number of people. So mass security screening, making sure that gatherings, meetings, uh, for example, are safe at places like airports, office buildings, and high profile events. High profile means important. It can be opposite of low profile. An example of a high profile event can be for example, the summit of presidents, or at the United Nations when there's some high profile meetings, gatherings. So they are using this technology in places like airports, office buildings, and high profile events to make everything is okay and to guarantee security. Okay, everyone. Now let's check out the exercises. Uh, Go to page 5, please. Exercise 2B. Read the passage. Do the following statements A through E. Agree with the text? There's a note here, everyone. You should write yes if the statement agrees with the text. There are 5 statements here, A through E. So, yes means the statement agrees with the text. No, if the statement contradicts with the text, if it disagrees with the text, you should write not given if there is no information on this in the text. So NG or not given means not mentioned. You can't find anything in the text. Well, A. Lying makes it harder to spit out the grains of rice. So, does it make it harder to spit out or easier? Remember, when we lie, our mouth gets drier, so it makes it easier. It's just the opposite. So, you should write no here. B. Lie detectors have been widely used in the UK for a long time. So they have been widely used in the UK or in the US. Right, the US. Wrong again. C. You don't have to be in the same room as the subject to use the VSA. So you don't have to be in the same room. It is correct. Remember, as it says here in paragraph 3, you can use it in the next room via a wireless mic or bug. So, yes. D. People hesitate before lying because they need to prepare their lie. They hesitate. They don't reply instantaneously. They don't reply immediately because they need time to think. So they hesitate. Yes. E. Special machinery, special equipment, gadgets, tools. Uh, Special machinery is needed to detect a blush, to find out a blush, to notice a blush. Yeah. As it says here in paragraph 5, we need a high definition, high sensing camera. So, yes. Exercise C. Answer the following questions about the words in bold in the passage. Number 1. The word controversial in the text is closest in meaning to. The answer is A, arguable. So, when something is controversial, it is arguable. Arguable. It doesn't mean settled, clear, or changeable. Number 2. The word screen as a verb, screen, is close in meaning to all the choices except. So, screen means check, it means examine, it means inspect. It doesn't mean assist. Assist means help everyone. Okay, screen. Number 3. The word premise in the text is closest in meaning to. So, as we discussed earlier, premise means idea. Idea. Number 4, the word determine. Please pay attention to the correct pronunciation. It is determine. We don't say I. So determine, men, n. Many students unfortunately mispronounce this word. The word determine is close in meaning to all the choices except. So everyone, determine means detect. It means discover. It means locate. It doesn't mean limit. Number 5, the word conventional, as we had in the text in paragraph 5, yeah, the word conventional is closest in meaning to. So conventional means traditional. Traditional. Okie dokie, let's move on. Let's move to exercise D. Match the headings A through E to the paragraphs in the text. Well, there are 5 headings here, and remember, we have 5 paragraphs in the article. You need to do the matching and match the headings to the paragraph. Remember, in order to do so, you need to get the gist of each paragraph. Let's say, get the main point of each paragraph. So, which paragraph discusses blushing? You know, remember, warming around eyes, going red. It was paragraph 5, right? What about hesitation? Remember the verb hesitate. We don't respond, we don't act instantaneously. We just kind of hesitate. Yeah, we don't do it immediately. So hesitation was in paragraph 4. we hesitate. Uh, the heading C, modern lie detectors or polygraphs, if you remember. Well, we had it in paragraph 2. Your voice, we talked about a gadget, the VSA, that measures our voice. It was in paragraph 3. And how the ancient Chinese did it, the people in ancient China, and it was in paragraph 1. All right, note, attention. Uh, for matching headings to paragraphs, to match headings with the paragraphs, you have to keep the following tips in mind. So, there are 5 pieces of advice here, everyone. 4 tips, 4 pieces of advice, 4 pointers here. Remember to bear them in your mind. Number 1, spend time paraphrasing the possible headings. So, take your time, try to express the possible headings in different words, using your own words. This is very important to paraphrase the sentences, the headings. Number 2, read the paragraph to find the main idea. So, what is the gist of the paragraph? The main idea of the paragraph is the general idea of the paragraph, what the paragraph is about. Number 3, pointer number 3, distinguish between main idea and extra information in the paragraph. Remember, you need to differentiate, you need to understand, to recognize the differences between the main ideas and the extra information. Okay? And finally, match main ideas, not vocabulary. Okay? So, look for the main idea. We don't match the vocabulary, everyone. We match the main ideas. All right. Grammar box 1, subject-verb agreement. What is meant by subject-verb agreement? It means when our subject is singular, the verb should be singular. When it is plural, the verb should be plural. In other words, or to put it in a nutshell, our verb should agree with the subject. So, everyone, we have each and every. Remember, we use each and every with singular countable nouns. Singular countable nouns. And our verb is always singular. Check out the examples. Each room looks over the harbor. It has a view of the harbor. You see each here. Room is a singular countable noun. Our verb looks, as you can see here, is singular. So it has a view of the harbor. Harbor is an area of water next to the land. Every student is expected to study well. You see, every student. Student is a singular countable noun. The verb is expected, as you can see, is singular here. There's a note. Every plus singular noun plus singular noun plus singular verb. So we say every boy and girl. You see, every boy and girl. The verb takes part in the activity. Takes part is singular. Okay. Well, I'd like to share something. Oops, sorry. So, yeah, here. Okay, yeah, this one. So, you see, everyone, every and each. Well, every man, woman, and child needs love. As I mentioned earlier, we use every with singular countable nouns. Remember, we say every, this, and this, plus singular verb needs love. Everyone is here. We don't say are. Everybody is here. Again, we don't use are. Each book and magazine, you see, each book and magazine. Book and magazine are singular countable nouns. And the verb, so each book and magazine is listed in the bibliography. Yeah. So we say listed, is listed. Again, our verb is uh, singular. Okay, and yeah, here. Yes. Again, you see one, each, and every. So one, each, and every are followed by a singular noun, singular countable noun, student here, for example. So every student, every teacher, every friend, every boy, girl, man, each woman, each father, plus a singular verb, has here. Okay. All right. Mm, now, uh, let's check the exercises. Well, micro practice. Choose the correct answer. Number one, each. So each is followed by a singular countable noun. Each child in the class, and our verb should be singular, has drawn a picture. Has drawn a picture. Number two, the teacher said every, again, every, after every we use a singular countable noun. Every student at school, the verb should be singular, needs to study hard. Number three, every man and woman, remember with every man and woman is required to check in. Number four, the detective had every, again, every man who was, singular verb, who was walking out under close control. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Thanks for listening and watching, and of course, for accompanying us. This is the end of another session. Hope you just enjoyed it. Well, until the next session, take care, everyone. Goodbye.